Hey, welcome to Creative Block. I'm your host, Sean, aka Lord Spew, and we don't have V today, so I'm going to be running this ship solo. We talk shop with other creatives in animation and comics about things like finding your artistic path or the process of making art while we doodle on Magma. We asked people on our social medias if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts. If you haven't yet, check out our Patreon and subscribe to our channel. Today we have with us KEVIN TEMMER. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
So, you are a multiple disciplinary artist, musician. Your work ranges from YouTube to the film industry, and it seems like you've had an amazing journey that has spanned over multiple things. But I want to go right to the beginning with you and ask, did you go to art school? Where did you get your start in making 3D animation?
Yeah, sure. So I did go to art school. I went to Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida.
Oh,
But
nice.
I've honestly, yeah. But honestly, I've been into art ever since I can remember. I remember just drawing as a kid and being into music as well. And I through the years I just kept practicing at those things because I was so passionate about them and looking for ways to combine both animation and music. And when I started posting my stuff on YouTube, that was kind of my aha moment.
And if I'm correct, you started your YouTube channel after college at some point. What how long after college would you say you started your YouTube channel?
Yeah, the thing is I've actually had quite a few YouTube channels.
Oh
It's
man,
been it's been a lot of trial and error. I had one as a kid, and
there's some
then
deleted archives out there.
oh yeah, no, definitely. There's like multiple archive channels, and yeah, it's just that a lot of my trial and error is out there of just trying to find
Yeah.
my voice and find what kind of sticks, what resonates with people. But hopefully it's an inspiration to people that, people don't find success overnight. It's a lot of throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what year did you graduate college? Just to get a time frame.
Oh man. Yeah, I graduated back in 2015,
Okay.
like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Just
so
kind of
so
crazy.
so you were still in a time where maybe not everything needed to be online. You were able to try and fail offline and be like, okay, that's embarrassing. I'm not going to keep that up, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think kids nowadays have it harder because they really start online. They
Yeah.
put their whole lives out there from the beginning so everyone can see every period of growth in their art and whatever else. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's definitely a lot more pressure on them.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like a going in for a job and you're 18 and your boss is like, "Well, you started this Roblox channel when you were 5 and frankly you cursed more than we're comfortable with, so we can't hire you."
I
Well,
mean, you'd be surprised probably how many people get hired off of their Roblox animations.
oh, I'm sure. I'm
It's a different
sure.
time. It's an interesting time to be alive for sure.
Yeah. Well, so I one thing that I wanted to talk about was your relationship with self-teaching versus um teaching in school. Are you more of like a self-learner? Do you tutorials? Do you eat YouTube? Like, or are you more of like an online course kind of person?
Yeah, so I think I am very much sort of learned by experimenting and trying things out. I remember as a kid, experimenting with different software that I found online, just trying to figure out how to do the whole animation thing. And then when I
Yeah.
got to college, I got to be formally taught in, industry standard software like Autodesk Maya.
Hmm.
But, I still continue to enjoy experimenting and learning new things. I think that's the beauty of it is that you never really have to stop learning with things like art because there's always more to learn. But it is really great that there's so many resources out there
Yeah.
today, like online tutorials and free software like Blender. there's so many resources out there today that you don't even really have to go to art school anymore. There's multiple paths to get to where you want to go because of the, the new world that we live in.
What is what uh sorry. Do you feel like learning on the job has been important? Have you done like
Oh
internships?
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've done a couple internships. I did an internship at Jib Jab
Oh, nice.
years ago. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They do the greeting cards where you put your face on the greeting card, and they do storybots. And when I was interning there, they were only starting storybots, so I just did a
Yeah.
tiny bit. But the main thing I did was the Christmas greeting card. You put your face on an elf, and the elf dances around. It was a super fun time. Really great people.
What,
Um,
what would you
yeah.
say if you had to distill what you learned on that first job experience? What was it? Did you like have to move for the job?
Yeah, so a friend of mine and myself, we went to California. We stayed at a hotel there
Oh,
for the duration of it was a summer internship, so we stayed there for a little bit. And yeah, it was my first time in California, and it was really, really just a cool first impression of the industry, which I know can often be very rare.
yeah, for sure. And then from the internship, what was your first job? What was like getting that first job like?
Yeah, so that first internship was between my junior and senior year, and then after I graduated college, I got an internship at Blue Sky Studios, and so I went through that internship program with them, and then after that, they brought me on full time. So that led to my career through the door, and
And
yeah, and I
was that
learned.
on a movie? What was that on?
Yeah, yeah. So I worked on a few different movies at Blue Sky. I worked on Ice Age 5. Yes,
Oh
there
my
have been
God.
5 of them. I heard they're making a sixth
Oh
one.
my
So
goodness. How long are they going to, when is
yeah,
this ice going to melt?
right. And I worked on Spies in Disguise, and I worked on Ferdinand the Bull. So I got to work on three feature films over there, and I always feel like my career kind of went backwards because I started on feature films, but then I went into smaller studios like mobile
Yeah.
games, indie studios, and yeah, and the funny thing is, it's I learned something everywhere I went, and it really enjoyed the path of my career. But I've found that like the smaller indie studios are what I enjoy the most because I feel like there's so much creative freedom in them. You can really see people's fingerprints all over the products they produce. It's
Yeah.
it's like everyone is very passionate, and they're all trying to make something that they think is cool and not necessarily worrying about what the target demographic thinks is cool.
Man. Yeah, no, that must be wild. Did it feel like you were like going in and I don't know, shooting fish in a barrel? Like going from like working at a big studio to going to what could possibly feel like little leagues? Was it were you like ready to like teach everybody? Were you what did that feel like?
No, not really. I feel like there were just so many talented people no matter where I worked that I just felt like I always had
Mhm.
something to learn. The for example, I worked on mobile games for a bit, and I had no idea all the things that went into the mobile game industry. It's a whole different ballpark with different things to worry about, and but it was a really cool experience just being at places that were so different than what I expected when I initially started my career. But I'm really glad that it all happened because when you hop around between different studios and even different like subfields within your field, you learn so much, and you learn about the things you want to do, but more importantly, you also learn about the things you don't want to do. And I
Mhm.
feel like that really helps you figure out yourself and get yourself closer to like being at a point where you feel pretty fulfilled with your life. And I think that like every step in my journey got me closer to where I am now.
So I feel like your journey's also been like the epitome of the pathway that I would normally suggest young animators to take. Like if I just took the middle of it with the YouTube stuff, normally I would say like, okay, if you're starting out, try to find an indie project, work on the indie project. Maybe that indie pilot will like pop off and something will happen with it. Like you've had this experience working on the circus from the ground up. It sounds like, right? You were working on episode 1, like the pilot?
Yeah, yeah, I was there on Digital Circus pretty much from the beginning. The first thing I did for them was help animate the teaser trailer for the show, and that was the first time that the characters were animated, and then moved on to the
Yeah.
pilot from there. And yeah, it was really cool just being there from the beginning because I felt like I got to sort of contribute ideas toward, how the characters moved and how their personalities were reflected in their animation.
Now, how was starting your relationship with them like? What was it? Did you have a relationship with the creator or with Glitch? Like, where was your entry point into working with them?
Yeah, so, as I worked at these different studios, when I had free time, I would work on my own little, short animated music videos for my YouTube channel. And, I would post those on all the social media I can think of, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything. And, that caught the attention of the CEO, Kevin, whose also name is Kevin. But so he reached out to me on Twitter and just said, "Hey, I really like the stuff you're doing. Let's like have a chat sometime." So every once in a while we would talk, and one day he reached out with the proposal of animating the Digital Circus teaser trailer for them. And at the time, I had another job, and he actually was also offering a full time position there as well. But at the time, I was like, "Hey, I already have a full time job, but I definitely want to animate the teaser for you." And as I was animating the teaser, I Kevin, messaged me and said, "Hey, can we talk?" And I got a little nervous because I thought maybe I wasn't doing a good job, and they wanted to
Oh
let me
no.
go from the freelance. And so we had a video chat, and he said, "Hey, we really want to bring you on full time." And I was like, "Oh,
Whoa, that's
okay,
the
yeah, let me
opposite.
think about that."
That's so
Yeah, exactly.
exciting.
It was the opposite of what I thought was going to happen. And after thinking about it for a bit, I decided to say yes, and I'm really really glad I did because it's been such an incredible experience.
Wow. And so can you take me through a little bit of the journey that has been the digital circus from doing a pilot to then getting more episodes to get then the Netflix thing? Like what's that been like? I'm assuming was that your only job that you were working, or were you in between other stuff?
Right. So I believe so when I got to Glitch, right, I did the teaser trailer. That was the first thing I did for them as
Mhm.
freelance. And then I actually hopped onto Murder Drones and
Ah.
worked on that for a bit. A couple of episodes of that. So that's our other show. And then we hopped into Digital Circus. So it was a little bit of back and forth between Murder Drones and Digital Circus. And it was really cool seeing Digital Circus go from the pilot to the show because each animator we brought on had their own interpretation of the characters and brought in their own ideas. So you'll see the quality of the animation get better with each episode as we
Yeah.
all figure these things out, get used to the characters, and as animators make these their own discoveries that we adopt for the show. So it's really cool just because it's a small team and it's indie. You get to see how people really influence the product with their ideas and their skill sets. You see how
Yeah.
everyone contributes and how everyone is so significant to the end result.
So on a crew like that, what are your responsibilities as lead animator? Are you taking on the more challenging scenes? Are you helping to make like an animation style guide? Are you approving shots? Or yeah, what is your kind of role?
Yeah, yeah. So mainly it's so I animate myself. That's my one
Hmm.
of my jobs. And then my other job is giving the other animators notes on their
Okay.
shots and trying to, yeah, give some of my own opinions and critiques, but also try to figure out what the showrunner might want. But then I'll also, once I give my notes, we'll send the shots to the showrunners as well, so they can take a look and give their notes and see if they agree with my notes. And yeah, so those are kind of like the two main things, as well as being in different meetings, discussing important things and making sure the animators are doing all right and checking in with them. Um, and yeah, and also things like help deciding the style and yeah, it's kind of a whole bunch of little jobs combined, which can make it very busy at times. But it definitely is a very fulfilling job, and just working with such a talented team of animators, I honestly feel like I learn more from them than they learn from me, and it's just very. It's just like a very inspiring atmosphere where you're seeing people who are very passionate about what they do and all like cooperating with each other.
That's dope. Is it a large team? How big is the team that you work with at
Yes, so
least?
well, right. The team of animators specifically, I think we have around 8 right now. So this is still pretty small. The studio in general has been growing a lot lately, though, with all the different departments and stuff. But yeah, the animation team itself is still pretty much on the small side, even though I think it's still like the biggest team we have
Oh my
there.
god.
Just because we're still indie, we're still, even though we've been growing, we're still pretty small compared to like the big studios.
So, if I were a new 3D animator coming onto the team, what are some of the like kind of style tips for how you guys animate on this particular project? I'm sure there's some things that people might not normally think about that are very important to the style of this particular animation.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is that, at Glitch, we really have been producing different shows that each have such completely different styles.
Hmm.
Murder Drones has such a different style from Digital Circus, and our upcoming announced show, Gaslight District, is completely different style from those two. So, I would recommend more being comfortable experimenting with different styles and showing your range in your reel, right?
Oh,
Showing
okay.
that you can do cartoony stuff and realistic stuff, that you can do emotional, dramatic, but also funny. And I think it's always fine to have a preference and have more of something, but I think definitely showing that you have range is definitely going to be attractive to us, because we're
Yeah.
going to be like, oh, that person will not only do well on this show, they'll also do well on that show, or maybe future shows that we don't even know about yet. So yeah, I think range is definitely very important and useful to have.
One of my favorite things to watch you post is your side by sides of your acting, like your reference acting and the shots that you animate. How important is reference to your work style? And also, have you taken acting courses?
um Yeah, well, in college, I think I did a little like acting elective or something, but I'm not like really trained in that or anything at all.
Yeah.
But I think it. I don't use reference every time, but I do find it helpful for certain shots when it calls for more realistic acting, things that require maybe more subtlety or body mechanics. For the cartoony stuff, I feel like I mostly usually go just based off of what's in my head, and different animators have different ways of going about that. I know one or two animators on the team who shoot reference for basically every shot, and they do an incredible job with it. I always look forward to seeing their reference, because they're also just really great actors in what they do, and it really helps them with their animation. But yeah, everyone has a different workflow and different way of going about it. I think it's just about trying different workflows and seeing which one sticks with you the best.
So that's one of the things that I feel like gets overlooked the most with animation is because we only have the voice performances, we're like half of the acting or more when we animate.
Right.
What's like getting into the head of a character or an emotion for a scene like for you? Do you have a few different attempts and you're like, no, this isn't it yet? What's your workflow like?
Yeah, I think my workflow is really like just trying a whole bunch of things and seeing what works and what doesn't. I think some people are much more organized and plan the whole thing out and then are able to execute it. But for me, it's kind of like, carving at a sculpture and trying to find the sculpture within this like big block of stone. So a lot of times I'll try something, it doesn't work. I'll try something else that doesn't work, and I'll just keep going until it feels right. And I'll often add new things on top of it as I'm going along. Like new ideas will just pop into my head as I'm working, and it can be a little chaotic at times, but I feel like it's worked for me for the most part.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can tell. I think that you get a lot of really subtle performances, and as well as a lot of ability to take a subtle performance and figure out when to push it, especially those like horror-y scenes where like you might do like an acting reference that is normal, but then the face is like stretching all over the place. And
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's fun to see how I can push things, and I think also it's it's been interesting discovering the types of shots that I like when I didn't even think I would like those kinds of shots. For example, I came in thinking I would only be really into acting and cartoony stuff, but working on Murder Drones, I found out that I really did enjoy working on action shots, or working on horror shots on that, and Digital Circus with like Pomni getting possessed and everything. So it's been cool discovering that more things that I like that I never thought I would like.
I wanted to ask you key 3D cartoon influences. Like if someone needed to see a few things to understand your influences.
Oh man, so specifically 3D cartoons.
Well, I mean,
Um,
let's open it up. Maybe if we get one 3D one at least. What
sure.
are
Well,
some influences
yes.
there?
3D wise, I grew up on Veggie Tales,
Hmm.
and you can definitely see a lot of Veggie Tales influence in Digital Circus. I also grew up watching Jimmy Neutron, and I feel
Hell
like
yeah.
I got a lot of that very like quick, snappy animating inspiration from there. Um, and then yeah, 2D cartoons. I mean, I feel like I watched them all. All the '90s cartoons,
Yeah.
like Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, SpongeBob, Flapjack, like just like everything that was on. I just absorbed all of it, and it was only in my adulthood where I truly saw how that all helped me. How I now have like this sort of arsenal in my brain of references that I can just pick from and file from in there. But yeah, it's all. I feel like it was all just studying when I didn't even know I was studying.
No, man. Yeah, I those are all amazing choices, and I can see all of them in your work. Um, uh, so once you went to YouTube, have you gone back into games or theatrical since then, or has it been pretty much like, hey, I'm with Glitch, we're making stuff?
Yeah, no, since I've been at Glitch, like I've been there for a few years now, and I've really been enjoying it. I could see myself, doing this as long as they have me. I think or at least staying in like the YouTube indie kind of world. I truly believe that indie animation is the future
Yeah.
of animation. We're at a very weird time in our industry right now where people are getting laid off all over the place, and it just feels like there's no job security anymore. It feels like all the big studios are just making sequels, and people are looking for something else in terms of audiences are looking for new original content, and artists are looking for places that are fun to work, where they can work on stuff that they can be passionate about and also have stability in their jobs. And you know I think the fact that these indie pilots that have been popping up have been doing really well, like like Has Been Hotel
Yeah.
and Lackadaisy. The fact that these projects are doing so well, and the fact that they didn't have to go through big studios to get made, shows that times are changing, and that people don't have to wait for the permission of a big studio to bring their vision to life.
Hmm.
And I really think that that's that people are just gonna not want to work for the big studios anymore unless they change and adapt
Right.
to the times. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things progress in the next few years.
I agree. I think some things are coming and things are developing, and I like
Hmm.
that that the artists are getting more power for sure. I
Hmm.
mean, speaking of more power, I feel like the more indie you get, the more likely you are to become a little bit more of a generalist. Like at studios,
Hmm.
it's more likely that you'll choose one path and you'll stay there for years. Do you consider yourself a 3D generalist, or would you mainly consider yourself a 3D animator?
I would say I mainly consider myself a 3D animator, but I do have some generalist passion as well. I've done a bit of rigging, and I think when it comes to my personal
Yeah,
side projects, I have to do everything myself. So it does sort of require me to be a bit of a generalist, but I do take whichever shortcuts I can,
it keeps you on top of your
like
shit when you're working on
yeah,
your own
no,
stuff, though.
absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right that like being at an indie or smaller studio, there's a higher chance that you might be asked to wear multiple hats,
Yeah.
or that you might have the opportunity to wear multiple hats. Maybe it won't always be required of you, but you might have an easier time jumping around between different things as opposed to a big studio where sometimes you're a bit stuck in the position that you're in.
No, that totally makes sense. I wanted to since we brought up the YouTube channel, you make a lot of songs and then animate them. I wanted to ask do you have any favorite music videos that influence you? And B, how important is a video to making music resonate to you for people?
Mm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Music videos. I mean, I'm a big fan of actual musical theater and Broadway and things like that. And I
Ah,
feel like that stuff influences me a little bit more than music videos.
that's cool.
So I try to bring a lot of that into my
Very
work.
theatrical.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Theatrical, over the top, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I think just
What's a favorite musical?
oh man, there's so many good ones. I mean, growing up, I think Avenue Q was one of my favorite ones. I'm a big fan of puppets
Oh
and things
yeah,
like that. So, yeah, that was a really good one. And yeah, and one of my music videos is very strongly influenced by Avenue Q. So that's one example of how I try to like bring sort of that musical theater aspect into my work. But yeah, I think that at least for my work, I feel like the visuals are very important because I feel like the songs aren't as strong by themselves. They kind of like they exist with the music. Like they work together to make each other stronger.
hmm
Um, yeah, and I find too that just like my YouTube videos do better than like the songs that I post on Spotify, because I think it's
yeah.
just like when you're listening to it, it's like you're kind of halfway experiencing it, but when you get to see the visuals too, it's like the whole thing,
Because
how
your
it was
lyrics
meant to
have
be
jokes in them.
experienced.
Yeah, your lyrics have jokes in them, and they're combined with a visual element.
Right, right, exactly.
What's your writing process with that like? Do you
Oh
have
man.
a favorite spot or thing to do to think of like a funny song, or do you like write down your ideas in a certain way?
Yeah, I mean, I think they sort of come to me at random places. It could be in the shower or right before I'm going to bed, or sometimes I think I was even on a vacation, and just an idea popped into my head. I think during the pandemic and everything, uh, I think that's when a lot of ideas were coming into my head because I was isolated in my apartment and didn't really have a lot to do when I wasn't working. So I think that isolation inspired a lot of interesting ideas.
Interesting, introspective, existential,
Existential
dark.
cries for help, call it what you will.
Yeah, it's very much a like blink twice if you need
Oh,
immediate
absolutely.
assistance.
100%.
Well, we got some questions across the different platforms. And with a little bit of time that we have left here, I'd love to ask a few of you. Maybe we can
Absolutely.
do a little lightning round kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, let's do it. Lightning
let's
round.
let's do um Puzzle Glum on Instagram asks, what are your tips for artists who want to make YouTube animation monetarily or otherwise sustainable over long term?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think the most important thing is to keep making things, right? The more things you make, the more you start building that consistency, you start building an audience. It's very easy to get frustrated at the beginning, or really any part of it. But I think if you make things you like and you're consistent about it, you keep making things and you keep putting them on the internet, even if you're not sure if they're good, that's going to give you way better chances of building an audience. And once you build enough of an audience, different social media platforms have different requirements, but once you hit that threshold, then you can start monetizing on them, and then you kind of take it from there. But
Yeah.
it's just, you just have to keep making art, and you have to put it on the internet. You have to, like, not be afraid of being cringe, embrace the cringe, and just keep making things and keep showing the world those things.
Okay, Mister. I've deleted my several YouTube channels because I was embarrassed. No. I'm just kidding.
Do what I say, not what I do.
No. So post mod art pod just said let Kevin know that I hope he's doing well.
Oh, is that yeah? Wait? Is that the postmodern art
Post mod art
podcast?
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. I did an interview for him as well a while ago, and that was super fun. And yeah, I hope you're doing well too, man.
Yeah, we'll have to compete podcast to podcast and we'll do a survey which one you liked more. Um,
Ooh, yeah.
Duckhurst on YouTube asked, "Have you ever considered creating your own indie animated show or film, and what that would look like?" I also want to tag on to the end of that. Have you had any experience pitching any stuff like that?
Yeah, I've never taken a pitch all the way through, but I have tried pitching in different places, or at least the first steps of it. And I've never, I'll get very passionate about ideas that I have, but then I typically tend to run out of steam before I get to the point where I actually follow through on them. And I
Yeah,
think that's a lot of the reason why I started creating shorter projects and just like animated music videos, because they're a lot more feasible. And I enjoy just being able to create all these different little
sure.
things and not having to commit to one big thing. But it's still definitely a dream of mine that would be cool. And maybe someday, but I think right now I've really been enjoying just being able to work on all these really fun shows and sort of contribute my own ideas to other people's visions.
Sam.avimusic from YouTube asks, what's your experience when first learning 3D? We covered this a little bit, but was it difficult at the beginning? Did you immediately take to it? What helped you?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up around the computer really helped me sort of embrace that world very quickly, because I was just, used to the interface and things like that. But it still definitely was a challenge learning new software and experimenting and figure out what works and what doesn't. But I think the passion is what got me through those difficult times, because the fulfillment I got from it always made it feel worth it. And just being able to look at something and say, I created that. Wow, that feeling was just so good that yeah, that I just wanted to keep going even when it got really, really challenging. And sometimes if I did feel like I wanted to give up, sometimes an animated movie would come out and that would inspire me to keep going. I would say like, oh wow, no, this is worth it, because then I can work on things like that.
Hmm.
So I think just always having your sources of inspiration, or always just like being honest with yourself about what you're passionate about. I think that's always going to guide you in the right direction.
This is always a hard question, but I think a little bit of a short one. Hudson B, PD3UD from YouTube asks, "What's your favorite thing that you've worked on?"
Oh man. Okay, I think professional wise, I think Digital Circus is probably like the most fun show
Cool.
that I've worked on. Although I have also really enjoyed Murder Drones and Gaslight District.
Yeah. But you have
And
to
then
say that to your
personal.
children. No, yeah, I love them. I love them too.
No, each one like was really fun for a different reason, but I feel like Digital
Hmm.
Circus is more like my kind of style, like kind of that cartoony wackiness. But I'm kind like I said earlier, I'm glad that I worked on stuff that wasn't inherently my style because it allowed me to discover things that I liked that I didn't even know I would like.
Yeah.
So, I think it's always good to step outside your comfort zone because you might discover, oh, there are more things that I like than I thought I did. But then personal wise, I guess like just some of the music videos I've
Hmm.
done. Like there's one with all these puppets inspired by Avenue Q. That one was a lot of fun. Um, and then of course there's What's the Matter, Martha, which is one of my
Yeah.
more known videos. I enjoyed working on that
No,
one.
that one's so fun.
Thank you.
Instagram, hank.humble asks, what do you think of the creative capabilities of Blender versus Maya? And I also wanted to ask you, in what ways do you feel like Blender being free has kind of made 3D for everyone? Have you seen it open up things and kind of reach more new talent?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not super familiar with Blender. I really do want to learn it because it looks incredibly powerful. It looks like there's a lot that you can do
Oh,
in it
so
that
so
you
you're a
can't do
Maya?
in
Are you a
Maya.
Maya head
Yeah,
mainly?
yeah, I'm a Maya guy. But I do really want to learn Blender because I do, like you said, I think the fact that it's free, the fact that there's such a big community on it and all these resources on it, and in fact, a movie made with it just won an Oscar. I think that's going to be the future of the industry. Just this open source free software that
Yeah.
that anyone can use. But yeah, I think that you can see it just in social media. You can see it in like tweens and teens posting their Blender projects, and me
Absolutely.
thinking like, "Wow, that looks better than anything I've ever made." This isn't scary at all. But yeah, no, it's crazy. It's like scary but inspiring because the next generation of artists are just going to be so crazy talented. What was it that kid that made Lego animations that were so good they got to make a scene in the Spider
Dude,
Verse
that's like a
movie,
dream. That's like a dream.
right? It's amazing. Just like as horrible as the internet can be sometimes it can also be very beautiful in
Yeah,
this
for
way to
sure.
connect with artists that you never thought you could connect
And
with.
it sounds like it's worked that way for you.
Oh, definitely. I've made a lot of wonderful connections and made a lot of friends online, and I'm very grateful for that. Just being able to talk with other creative people who are um, equally, if not more, passionate about what they do.
So we've reached the end of our listener questions. Aside from "Haunt Till It Hurts," not a question, but please tell him that I mumbled "Delete this tweet" song at least once a week. Thank you to all of our listeners for submitting your amazing questions. We have one last question to ask you, which
Yeah.
is, do you get creative block, and how do you deal with it when you do get it?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I get creative block, I get imposter syndrome. There are all these. I think we're all our worst critics and we're all the biggest obstacles that get in our own way. And I think at the end of the day, it's always about just thinking of what is fun to you, what makes you passionate. Sometimes working in this field, it can be so easy to forget why we started it in the first place, that we didn't start it for money or anything like that. We started because we love making art, and sometimes you just have to step away from the computer or the piece of paper, take a walk outside and just like live life a bit, but then also just try to remember why you started doing this in the first place, and try to get back to that, tap into that inner child that makes you excited about things. That's at least what helps me out.
Yeah, that's very insightful, and we
Thank
all got to check back in with ourselves. I appreciate you talking to me, to me and with me here today on Creative Block. But this interview is coming to the end, and I am gonna set you free in a second. But first, I got to do our outro. That's the end of this Creative Block. Kevin Temmer, thanks for being our guest and sharing your story. Do you have anything that you want to promote? Anything we should be taking look out for? Any ways we can support you?
Keep an eye out for the Gaslight District, the new Glitch show coming out this month. We'll have more Digital Circus coming out later, and maybe eventually I'll come out with another side project. But yeah, and everyone just keep making art. And by the way, I just wanted to say your drawings are beautiful. They're all incredible, and I love them.
Thank you so much. And also, thanks to our listeners. Follow us on social media at CRTV Block, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions for our guests. Huge thanks to our editor Clemens for editing the podcast, Marco for helping us produce the show, and Ibuka for creating the short clips that we've been putting out. If you love our show, then support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews, access to our Discord community. Click the link in the description of this episode. I've been your host, Sean. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.